This one is huge. I mean, this is so big. Alliances. All right. Man, when I noticed this, it really tripped me out. Okay, say that you're with your friends, okay? Actually, you guys ever heard of the chode crystal?
No. Yeah.
All right, the chode crystal is when the chodes crystallize together, all right? So now, okay, in RSD we have a lot of funny terms. We do that on purpose to make something that some people view as being serious or nerve-wracking, we do it to make it humorous, also because we're fucking ridiculous. So, essentially, we call it a chode crystal. And chode crystal is like when you've got a bunch of new guys that, well, or not even new guys, say just like chodes or whatever, and they're out and they crystallize together. Typically they have the drink pressed up against the chest, you know, maybe they're kind of like bopping with music that they don't really want to dance to, so they're kind of like, yeah, like that, right? Or say that you have even newbies that go out. Now you'll notice that guys who are new at this tend to go out in packs. Right, like little wolf packs. You know how guys that are like, you see like groups of 16-year-olds that go out in big groups of like 12 of their friends, like a little gang, right? And then what happens when they get in the little gang? They get a little bit obnoxious, right? Why? Because when someone who's not used to being in state and doesn't feel like they deserve to be in state goes in state because they have a bunch of their friends around, very typically they will act in obnoxious ways that they secretly have wanted to do for the longest time and didn't think they'd get away with, right? Isn't that funny, right? Like you can learn a lot about someone when they feel like they can get away with stuff, and then you see the kind of stuff that they start to do, right? It's kind of funny. And, all right, so what I found interesting was I'd be with my friend. Say that I even had one friend. You're wingman, all right? And I'm with my one friend. We're together. I would notice that if I would break off from my buddy, as soon as I would break off, I could actually feel, like a thermometer, my state going down. And kind of like, where's my buddy? It's like, oh, there's a girl right there. Well, where's my buddy at? I'll just go, where's my buddy at? You know, just go see where he's at. Oh, hey, we'll go talk to them. Okay, right? And then come back. All right? It's funny how that thermometer works. Isn't it also funny how when you start your night out, you don't know anybody and you might be out of state, but as you make quote-unquote alliances, like you make friends within the environment and you know a few people in the environment, what starts to happen? Boom, right? You start to hit state. I remember once I was at the W Hotel, and I used to know the manager. I used to be good friends with the manager, and that manager left. And I was having a horrible, horrible night. And he came up, he said, "Oh, Owen, what's up, man? I haven't seen you in the longest time." And I was waiting in the bathroom. He goes, "Dude, you don't need to wait in this bathroom. Let's go back here," right? And he actually let me into like the bouncer's bathroom. He goes to the bouncer, "Oh, this is Owen. You know, let him have run to the place. A good friend of mine, blah, blah." And it was like all good, right? After that happened, I was like, ding. I was like, dun, 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 right? Like, you know, it was like, boom. Because my mind was like, look at this. See, you know people here. Essentially, there is a reason for this. If you're with a group of people and you have those relationships in the environment, again, if that rock-bearing caveman alpha male decides to descend upon you, you have the relationships there to back it up. And again, this is why that system's in place. Simultaneously, though, I think that because, again, we do live in an era where there's really nothing to worry about unless you're a dumbass most of the time, although we have these weird counterexamples, but for the most part, all right? It's all good, okay? But for the most part, you really don't need to worry about it. Look, for the most part, I've been out alone countless times. Many of you guys have been out alone countless times. So just don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. When you look, these things are like rules, right? Like these things are kind of like rules that you want to move past. So say that you sense that you go more in state when you're dressed well. Well, what do? Maybe as an experiment, you try going out not dressed that well, and you just go with the flow. Just allow yourself to have those to get those reference experiences to see that you can pull it off. And hell, if it doesn't work the first night, try another night. Well, likewise, try going out alone, right? Try going out on your own. Try going out, or try being with a buddy and just saying, hey, I'm going to just split off from you for a bit, you know? Hey, you just bounce in this venue, I'm just going to go in this venue for a bit. I mean, look, this isn't like a way that maybe you're going to live your life in the next 10 years from now, but when you're new at this stuff, or not even new, even intermediate, and you just think you're a big shot, if you can't do this yet, try breaking off from your buddies and just letting that confidence come from within and not needing him to be there. All right? But isn't it funny how your night builds, right? The night just builds as you meet more girls, more guys, more interactions. It builds up. So that's another one. That's an interesting one. Next on the list, competencies. This here is what the community has been about for such a long time, guys. Competencies. The entire community, in many ways, has been founded on this one little criterion on the thermometer. All right? So, as a lead-in, have you ever seen a guy who's out at a club who has a guitar with him? Ever seen that? Right? You've seen that? What happens?
It's open like all night.
Right? Ever seen someone doing magic, for example?
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? It's crazy, right? In a club, it's crazy. It is awesome. How about the guy who has access to the cool party? Right? Like the promoter, for example. You know? Or the guy who's the bartender. Right? You gotta, yeah, right? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay? So you've got that access. And again, you know how we talked about Staping, like you know that you can provide the good emotions? You go, well, you're like, look, I can provide the good emotions. I've got access to this party. Or, you know, maybe you're the DJ and you're playing the music. Or you're the host of the party. You know, some kind of competency. Basically, something that allows you to feel, it's like that magic penny, maybe even if it's a real magic penny, that allows you to feel like you are the source of good emotions. Well, really think about how this applies to the concept of pickup lines. Really, really go deeply into this with yourself. When you have a great pickup line, look, say that you come to a pickup seminar, and we look around this pickup seminar, and your brain goes like this. Remember how we talked about how pacing and leading and creating authority? Take this very seminar as an example. We've got a big group of people here, right? Nice big group of people. Got close to $1 million in camera equipment here. All these people have come to hear pickup lines. So if I come here and I tell you, I have the best pickup line for you, your unconscious mind, it's very easy to say, that's a shit. That's a shit. But isn't it funny that there is a guru and student symbiotic relationship that's going on, isn't there? And I'm going to talk more about this. Because for the student, the guru telling him how to think and how to act, it alleviates him, it unburdens him of the responsibility of thinking for himself. But you want to know what else? The guru needs the students. Because the guru's like, look, I must be right. Everyone's listening to me. If all these people are listening to me, I have to be right. And so there's a very bizarre guru-student symbiotic relationship. This is one of the reasons why I moved to Honolulu in South America. And I live in small towns, really humble, stay with really humble people who have no idea about my job or anything like that, and hang out with those kinds of people. Really, I hang out with small town folks because I felt myself getting sucked into this, needing that constant validation. Like, look at all these people that believe what I think and stuff. So it was playing mind games with me. I'm not have to be like that my whole life, but I needed to snap myself out of it. Well, here's the thing. Look, when you have a guru who tells you, use this line, it's a great line. Your mind says, look at this. I have something to offer now. I have this line. So look at the difference. If I say that I give you a line, all right? Say the line is, who lies more, men or women, for example. It's a classic community line. So I walk up and I say, you know, I do my little thing. Hey, who lies more, men or women, right? And when I say it, right? This is a funny one, right? Like all the time they go, right? So, okay, it's crazy. So the thing is, like, say that I do that. The way that I'm going to do it, like, hey, who lies more, men or women? Like that. The level of confidence that I'm going to have is going to be so much higher. And I mean, really think about this. Really think about this. Because the next opener I'm going to choose says a million things about you. The next one would be to go up and say, hey, my name's Owen. All right? Like that, okay? Because think of the value that you believe in yourself when you say, my name's Owen, right? Like, as in, or whatever your name is, obviously. You guys are like, the my name's Owen opener. It's the shit, right? You know? So, right? But think about what that really says about you. Like, because you'll see guys who try an opener, and it works great. And then they'll try just introducing themselves, and they go, I tried that. I tried introducing myself. It doesn't work. right? Add to that you now have like a complex belief, because you know how when you, look, science is a funny thing. Empirical science is a funny thing. Because when you get a result, you then look for reasons for that result and create a model around it, right? So if your model is like, it doesn't work because it's too generic, and that does kind of make sense, right? I mean, there's evolutionary proof that being generic is unattractive. So it's like, look, I walked up, I introduced myself, it's too generic, it didn't spark attraction. Well, guess what, guys? You guys know Tim? Guess what his favorite opener is? Hello, my name is Tim. And that's his opener. And I remember when he came back from Europe, he was on his own, and I'm going to talk about why this happened and how you can make it happen for yourself. He had come back from Europe, and he was like, mate, you know, I don't really use a lot of pickup lines anymore, mate. I just say, hey, I'm Tim. So I said, okay, let's go out and see this. I took him out in my hometown of Canada, and he was like a changed man. He would just walk up, hello, my name is Tim. And it was like, make out, make out, make out, make out. It was crazy, right? It was like, and he was like the rock star of the club, and he was doing nothing. I couldn't believe it. And I wanted to test it. I said, Tim, we're going to find the most attractive woman in this club, all right? We're going to see if this, hey, my name's Tim thing is going to work. So I found the most gorgeous girl in the club, all right? And she is with this huge, hulking football player boyfriend. So little Tim walks up, okay? How old is Tim at this point? 21 or something, okay? Walks up, it's a young man, right? Walks up, hello, I'm Tim. She's like, oh, hi, and then turns back to the boyfriend. So I go, shit, I guess obviously, you know, it can work on some girls, but maybe not on the 10s, maybe it doesn't work, blah, blah. I was like, fuck it, man, who knows? We'll try another one later. I don't even think twice about this stuff. So we go back, we're talking to these other girls. Suddenly, Tim gets a poke on his shoulder, and it's the girl. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I just had to get rid of my boyfriend. I really want to meet you. What's your name? Boom, back in, okay? All right? It was incredible. And Tim is a guy, like, it was interesting because when we started to move towards the blueprint style material, right, what happened was there was a shift within the company in the sense that when we were using a lot of tactics and techniques, clearly I probably had the best skill set of anyone within the company because, I mean, it's just the simple reason that I went out the most and I'd been in it the longest, right? I just, you know, if most guys had gone out 600 nights in a row, I'd gone out like 1,000. But when we switched over to becoming natural, a lot of guys in the company shot really far ahead of me. I was like blown away by what a lot of my buddies could do, and that's one of the reasons why I have instructors, is so I can learn off of them, right? And Tim was a guy who just, you know, he really, like, when I watched Tim, what was interesting, a lot of people have said of Tim. Has anyone here ever taken a boot camp with Tim? I know we're in North America. Yeah, that's a shame. If we're in Australia, so many people would have. A lot of people will say of Tim that is what the game should be. That is what the game should look like. A lot of people will say that about him. And that's because he's just so natural, so smooth, and so utterly consistent. Just why? Let's bring this full circle. Because when he goes up, hey, I'm Tim, boom. It's just complete belief. Whereas most guys, they can go up with, hey, who likes more, men or women? And all the right communication is there. But when they're going up and introducing themselves, the communication is different. All right? That's not necessarily to say that going up and introducing yourself is necessarily the superior opener. Do I think that going up and introducing yourself is the best opener? I think there's lots of better openers than that. I think there's lots of great ways to open other than that. But I'll tell you this, if you can't open doing that, that says a lot, doesn't it? Because for fuck's sakes, guys, it's just a girl, right? If you cannot get a set open, if you can't get the girl open and attracted by going up and introducing yourself, like, maybe it's not your favorite opener. I'm not saying that you should shift to this opener, but I'm just saying if you can't do it, there's work to be done. All right? And when I saw Tim do that, I was like, that is what I want. I said, I want that. Not only because all the media that's being put on all this pickup stuff, how are you going to, it's like in Cosmo Magazine, watch out for any guy that introduces himself, right? He might have read the game, you know, like it just, you know, it doesn't make sense, right? So the thing is, it's just completely beyond that, but there's a deeper level, and I'm going to talk about this later, which Tim had reached a level where it was within his reality of the idea that women can like me just for me. Because some guys, it's not in their reality that women could like them just for them, so when they walk up, they need that line to be there, right? That competency. Like, women like me because I have access to a cool party. Women like me because I have a guitar with me. Women like me because I have these funny lines that my guru told me are really good and everyone else believes it, so it must be true. But really, your confidence, like your state, that state thermometer, it should really be like It's about me. All right? So that's where competencies is. And this little glitch here has been the basis of the community for the dating success and underground dating community, success with women community, for over a decade. Because everything from neuro-linguistic programming to different techniques and all sorts of stuff like that, guys have been getting results with them. And one of the reasons why they've worked to get a great result is because when you give a guy the magic penny, zoom, right?
So Tim is naturally,
Immediate results. What's that?
you say Tim is naturally in that high state all the time?
Well, I'm going to talk about how Tim got that way, briefly, okay? And it's very interesting how he did it. And it can be done by anybody, I really believe that. So look, that's competencies. So, okay, first ones we've gone through, superficial social standards, alliances. Now we talked about competencies. Let's go to the next one. Role plays. And by the way, do you guys notice how... You guys ever heard of I ran out of things to say syndrome?
Oh, yeah.
Right? I ran out of things to say. You can't run out of things to say. If you've lived several decades, you have several decades worth of things and observations that you can bring to the table. The thing is, though, it's this, right? And that's one of the reasons why I moved in this direction, was because no guy who comes on a boot camp with me is going to be permitted to run out of things to say. You know, that to me, that's so important. I can't have a guy that has the first 10 minutes down and whatever. That sucks. So that's my goal. Now look, do you want to know why that is, by the way? Remember how I said that boot camp or any RC program is about being the sex-worthy guy and it's about closing, right? The way that my criteria for success in a guy is not, can he make a girl giggle? It's like, it's the close factor, all right? And obviously, some guys, can be brought all the way there in a weekend. Some guys, it will take, 6 months or a year after they take a program, depending on where they're at. But I always want that to be your criteria for success. Like, I always want you guys to be coming from a position of like, let's get this handled, Let's get this handled all the way. Now look, the next one being role plays. And all three of these ones I found to be incredibly fascinating. All three of them, like the idea that your clothes or something like that could affect your state. The idea that who you have around you affects your state. The idea that when you have like that magic penny, whether it's the pickup line or the access or the guitar or whatever it is, that puts you in state. But this last one, role plays, rocks my world. Let me tell you, it rocks my fucking world. When I see how this one works, it just blows me away. So let me talk to you guys. There will inevitably be some pickup instructors who will at some point watch this program, and this is going to be of particular interest to them. Because one of the most common things that you hear about in guys that teach pickup is a lot of guys will say, it's funny, ever since I've been teaching pickup, I do really, really well when the guys are around, but when I'm on my own, I can't do it anymore. It's so funny. It's almost like all the dates that I go on are the girls that I met during the program, and I never meet girls outside of program anymore. And you see that a lot, and it's this incredibly common thing, and I experienced it myself. Here's why. Remember how I said that your mind is always pinging to find out what your reality is? When you've got a group of guys sitting there in a semicircle around you with glazed over eyes, of course you're going to feel like a champion, right? Your mind says, look at me. Look at this. Let me ask you guys a question. Have you ever been out with somebody who had better skills with women than you, and not only did you not match up to him, but your game just went way down? Right? It's a lot of nodding here. And that's because you're constantly looking at him, right? You're not playing. I always say to people, play your own game, man. Like whenever I'm out with someone, I say, play your own game. Don't be looking at what I'm doing all the time. Play your own game. Because I used to do that. A lot of my old mentors have incredible skills, like awesome. And I would go out with, work on my skills and stuff like that, get really good, and then I'd see them, and then I couldn't be the same way that I was. I would always second guess, like all the things that I used to say that I thought were cool, but then I look at what they're saying, it just sounds so much cooler. And it's almost like you just want to give them the right of way. You know what I'm saying, right? Like just let them do his thing, Because you feel like you can't match up. Like you feel like you cannot match up to the social energy. You can't match up to the value that guy's offering. So role play is just fascinating because say that you're teaching somebody, right? I mean, what is a better way to get good at this stuff than find a guy even more chody than you and boss him around for the night and teach him, right? A lot of guys get addicted to it. We call them the lairs, right? Which is like the underground groups where guys like kind of like meet up in different cities. And there's always like those couple guys in the lairs that are not really super skilled, but they will still like kind of like boss people around, like show them around and stuff like that because they're getting state out of it and they're fueling it. But you know what? That's not a bad thing at all because it helps the people that they're teaching and it helps themselves. It's actually a very positive thing. But it is kind of funny. It's just kind of funny to look at and go, oh, that's interesting. Now look, with role plays, we all sort of have a concept of like the different roles that are out there, the universal roles. Some of the universal roles could be like leaders, followers, and all sorts of roles in betweens. All right, and these roles have different characteristics, different characteristics of who you think people expect you to be. So look, maybe you take on the more dominant role when you're at work and when you're teaching, but when you're with a girl, you can't do it, right? You're out at a club, your buddy's not as good as you, so you dominate. You're like, here, man, come on, do this. Here, watch. Here, dude, just don't even worry, man. Watch this. I can do this. Boom. But then when you're with someone who's better than you, it's kind of like that. But it even goes deeper. It even goes deeper than that. Look, roles are constantly being exchanged, right? So say that you've got two guys that are competing for the same girl. What's really fascinating is that as those guys kind of verbally spar a little bit or get the girl's attention, what they'll do is they will tool each other out into the beta role. So essentially what they'll do, here, I'll use this at first. What they'll do, for example, say that a guy is used to being the judge, right? Like, say that you're used to being the judge. You're used to being the judge in the situation. And those are some of the characteristics that you have as a leader in that role. And then suddenly a guy says to you, like the old classic one, I think it's kind of played out, but whatever, it's like saying, oh, you're cool, man. So the guy says, hey, dude, you're cool, right? So what he's doing now is he's taking on the role of the judge. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to take your state and go, boom, and sink it. So what might happen is that you're being like a really cool guy in front of the girl, like you're being, you got you're accessing that high value imprint, your pimp personality, whatever you want to call it. And you're doing really well, but when he starts taking on the characteristics of the role stronger than you, and he has more certainty of those characteristics than you do, what suddenly happens is your mind sinks back into that old imprint. It goes back down into the old imprint, guys. It goes, oh, I guess I'm the chode now. And then you start taking on the chody behaviors. And then he's all now talking to the girl, and they're having fun, and you're like, oh yeah, like trying to pipe in, and it's not hitting, and then that's called blowing yourself out. Sure. Right? You're blown out. Mm-hmm. So essentially, this stuff is happening all the time. You see comedians doing it. There was a great clip of Jamie Foxx on YouTube that I saw. I linked to it off RC Nation. You guys read RC Nation? Yeah? Yeah? www.rcnation.com. It's our forum. We really work hard to make it awesome. Anyone can go on it. Now look, there was a link to this, and Jamie Foxx had this comedian that came up to the front. It was for a roast. And Jamie Foxx started saying to the guy, as the guy was talking, Jamie Foxx starts going, he's like, this is your conscience. Am I fucking up right now? Did it get hot in here all of a sudden? Oh man, these girls are like, who is this motherfucker? And as he talks, he's like, oh, and you see him, he's like, and now he's starting to sweat, right? He's losing access to that imprint, and Jamie Foxx is like, right? And then the guy tries to throw a jab back at him, and he goes, I wish I had a movie with Jamie. He's so cool. And the guy just like gets shut down even more. And then to just demolish him, the worst part, just Fox demolishes him at this point ruthlessly. He tries to talk, and whatever he says, Jamie Foxx talks over it. So he's like, I said, and he's like, whoop, whoop, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, I think like that, and the guy's like, he's like, oh, like that, and he's like, and then Jamie just gets up, he's like, okay, man, you can sit down, hey, great job, man, boom, just gets rid of him, gone, all right? And so what Jamie basically did there, and man, I would not want to get in a verbal sparring match with a guy like Jamie Foxx. Actually, I would love to, because it'd just be awesome to get demolished by that guy, but, but the point is, it was cool, because what you can see, the trading of roles, all right? And how guys will, when they're out, nix each other down to make them sort of switch up the roles. They do that also by, remember we talked about RAS, reticular activation system? Well, another way that guys in a nightclub will commonly tool each other out is like if you're talking to the girl and then the guy tries to talk, you make like you can't hear it. So essentially you're making it as if he does not have enough value to enter into your RAS system, so he's being tuned out. And then when the girl sees that, she's seeing the subcommunication that you're not reacting to him, and it lowers his value. And guys do this all the time, right? I was talking to Dan here, who's been in this for a long time, and he was mentioning that he's like, it's funny because I'm at a point now where when guys get intrusive, I actually don't hear them. Like my RAS really does tune them out. So it's kind of funny how you start off, right? You start off by taking on the characteristic, but then as your sense of identity change, we call that deep identity level change. As the deep identity level change starts to take root, a lot of the behaviors that you were taking on become natural. Why? Because we model these behaviors after people that have really made the shift. So it's very cool, very fun. Anyway, look. You can even see a lot of gurus out there when we talk, and this is sort of, the reason I've studied the concept of gurus is because when I first started teaching boot camps, I never wanted to become a guru. I just wanted to get, the resources to travel around and teach boot camps. And suddenly I found all these weird neurotic tendencies that were arising in my own mind. And one of them was like I was becoming more and more neurotic when I wasn't teaching programs. And it was like programs allowed me to become normal. Like having the big circle of people listening to me allowed me to become normal. And when you took that away from me, I felt like I had all this other noise that was going on in my head. I recognized that. That's why I moved out to Hawaii, started spending time in nature, meditation, that kind of stuff, just to chill out and realize, no, like that role is just a role. All right? Something I'm going to talk about later is to recognize that a role is just a role, and you don't have to identify yourself with that role. Someone can judge you, and you don't even need to correct them. They say, "Oh, you're cool, man." Just, "Oh, cool, whatever," right? You don't need to let the ego structures dictate your response. If you don't understand that, that's fine. We'll talk about it later. Anyway, look, the whole role-playing thing, absolutely fascinating. Start paying more and more attention to when you're in certain roles, your state goes up, and when in certain roles, your state goes down, and allow yourself to become familiar with it and to still be in state even when you're not in the role that you like the most.
Is that what like a congruence test is? Or should like try to put you in a different role?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. A congruence test? Yeah, when she's like, oh, you're a jerk, blah, 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 and she's trying to get you in the role of like defending yourself and stuff like that? Sure. No doubt, man. So now we're going to bring it full circle. And we're going to talk about the final criterion. All right? And that's called core value. So we talked about the first four, right? Superficial social standards, alliances, competencies, and role plays. Which were, when I wrote this stuff down, guys, bear in mind I just wrote this stuff down on my laptop one day, okay, as a 24-year-old kid. It's not like this is the all-consuming categories, just stuff I sort of came up with in brainstorming. But ultimately, these four categories were what I felt covered most of the ways that guys chase after state. So you asked a question earlier where you were asking, can there ever be real core confidence? Right? Like, could real core confidence ever exist? And of course, it's a philosophical question, and the semantics get brought into it. Like, could a 10 ever exist? Like, is there such thing as a perfect 10? Right? Some guys are like, no, I will not give a 10. No girl gets a 10 because that's the perfect girl, right? Other guys are like, nah, if she looks like that and that's her behavior, I'll give her a 10. Fuck it, And of course that depends. So could true core confidence ever exist? I don't know. Could it ever really exist? Who knows? But I'll say this. There's definitely people who have a lot more core confidence than others. And beyond that, the reason why we teach the difference between situational confidence and core confidence is to break you out of a pattern, a bad self-destructive pattern that most guys are stuck in. And that's this. Most guys spend their lives chasing circumstances, don't they? So, say you have a classic example, club promoter in Los Angeles. How does he spend his life, right? He wants to meet women. How does he spend his life? First off, he's got the nice clothes. Hopefully, if he's lucky, the nice situation in life. Likewise, he's got a lot of friends, right? He keeps a lot of friends, a lot of acquaintances, that kind of thing. Likewise, he puts himself in a role of authority. And likewise, he has something of value to offer people, which is access to nightclubs. So that's just, a club promoter is just a classic example. By the way, I think being a club promoter is a great job to take on if you're more interested in being around women and stuff like that, because you're incorporating your work into your new endeavor of success with women. But regardless, just take that as a classic example. Well, that being an extreme example, but all guys do it to a certain extent. We're chasing after those circumstances that allow us to feel state. And that's fine, all right? It's fine to chase those circumstances. And right action dictates that we should chase those types of circumstances. To an extent, not chase, but, align the circumstances of our lives in a way that we enjoy. But I'm going to switch it up on you. I'm going to switch it up because I'm going to give you an understanding that most people lack, and that's this. The cause and effect relationship with these things is skewed. Most guys are missing what causes what, right? Like, the chicken or the egg dilemma? What causes what? Because let me ask you this. Take great clothes. How about the rap group Outkast? Anyone know them? Right? Pretty stylish, huh? He's got the big, weird, Looney Tunes hat, the giant circus man pants. But Andre 3000, that guy's got style. He does, because he makes it cool. In fact, him dressing like that makes him cooler. Why? Because that guy has the level of charisma required to make those clothes cool. In fact, most styles that are out there today, if you really stop and think about it, were dictated by individuals who had enough belief in themselves to dictate the styles, wasn't it? Think about it. Where do the styles come from? Some of them are classical, some of them come from back in the day, like say blue jeans or something, back in the early 1900s or something like that. But look, most styles are dictated by charismatic individuals. You've got a whole nation of white kids that dress like hip-hop. Right? Why is that? Because the people from the inner city who were part of hip-hop, even though they didn't have a lot of resources, said, we may not have resources, but we got fucking style, man. We're fucking cool. And they started exhibiting that. And they started to dictate the style. It's amazing. It is awesome. And so when you think about your clothes, rather than trying to get the perfect clothes, what if you said, I'm going to make these clothes cool? What if you said, I'm going to own whatever I'm wearing, right? Because take the word nerd, okay? Take the word nerd. There's two types of nerds, aren't there? There's a nerd who's like a nerd, like the class, like he's a nerd. But then you've got guys like Weezer or something like that, who are like nerd chic, right? Like nerd cool, They can dress like my buddy Oljai, my best friend in Hawaii. He's like nerd chic, right? Like he dresses like a nerd. He's a full nerd. He's a computer programmer. He's a nerd. But he's like nerd chic, right? He pulls it off. He makes it cool. Likewise, anything that you have, you can make cool. So really, living up to remember we talked about reacting to other people's standards? I think it's so much cooler to have your own standards and make people react to your standard. How about alliances? Most people, they're looking for those alliances within a venue, or wherever they are, friends, relationships. And they think, when I have friends or when I have relationships, I'm going to feel confident, right? You go into the nightclub and you're like, look, I'm going to try and make some friends in here so I can start to feel confident. Why don't we flip up the cause and effect? If you're confident, relationships are going to come into your life naturally. Core confidence is what brings the relationships to you. How about competencies? Having something that people like. Well, when you're a confident guy and you're speaking authentically, again, we're flipping up the cause and effect here. You have something that people want. And the last one, role plays. What better example could we find? Being put in a position of authority, people chase that position of authority because they want to feel good. They want to feel good by being in authority. When you already feel good, people will want you to be in authority. They will put you in positions of authority. So that, to me, where core confidence comes from, there's a lot of different layers. But the first layer is the flipping of cause and effect. And let me tell you, you can live this. You can really live this. Like, look, you can stop chasing all these circumstances. But it starts today, all right? I first wrote about core confidence in 2004. And I just realized that it existed. You know, when I broke it down. That's when I first wrote about it. When I first wrote about it, did I immediately have core confidence? No way, right? Of course not. You've got it, but we're trying to plant a seed here, guys. Okay? We're planting the seed. So you guys who maybe look at this now and go, oh, that couldn't be me. I couldn't picture that being me. Well, if you don't plant the seed, nothing's going to happen. You're going to continue on the way you've been going, right? There's that old expression, if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting the results you've always gotten. I believe that's an NLP expression. Now look, let's plant these seeds. A lot of people live like this. A great example would be Jeffy. Jeffy makes his own styles. You know what I'm saying? That's what you really want to think about. Don't be the person who reacts to trends and tries to chase the trends.
Be the guy who creates the trends?
Be the guy who creates it. Don't be the unthinking masses. Remember we said a key theme of this seminar? Okay. Key theme of the seminar. Okay, don't worry. We'll answer all questions. Key theme of the seminar was most people walk through life in a walking daze, right? Most people walk through life in a trance. So they're just reacting to their emotions. Because remember how we said living in reaction? It means, like, there's a number of different things that living in reaction means. One is not knowing who you are, not knowing what you value. Another one is not knowing how your emotions work. If you don't know why your emotions are doing this to you, you're probably going to live in reaction because you're going to think it's all real. It's like, it's so real, right? When you don't know how your old, outdated emotional system works, it's like everything feels so real. And it's hard to be like, you know, kind of like the old man watching from the mountaintop. It's hard to be like that chill guy just kind of watching it play out, watching the drama play out from the mountaintop when you feel so immersed in it, when your perspective is so, it's so close in your face, right? Isn't that what meditation does for who's ever done it? When you meditate, and just very simply, like, you just allow yourself to sit and just do nothing. Just stare at the wall, for example, and just sit there. And it's almost like your perspective, the best way I could put it is it dilates, right? It goes like that. You stop being concerned with the little me, you know, and all your little problems, and you think more globally. And suddenly your problems don't impact you as much. Well, likewise, we want to get you guys planting the seeds that will cause that kind of thinking. So look, what else about core confidence and core value? All right, think about it in terms of reacting. Most people are looking for the social feedback of people reacting to them, when in reality, think about that. Most people are looking to make people remember we talked about it yesterday in the context of who's reacting to who? Most people need to get people reacting to them before they can feel confident. But they don't realize the cause and effect is when you feel confident, people react to you. All right? That's the sort of final way I would wrap that. But look. What's that?
Button pushing.
Button pushing, of course. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. So, core confidence, from a sort of, you know, the way I've kind of laid it out in my notes. Core confidence comes from an unshakable conviction of who you are and what you're entitled to. It's a confidence that allows you to take on a charismatic attitude, the type of charismatic attitude that gets people reacting to you regardless of the situation that you're in. And some examples of that are like, just to go even a bit deeper, okay, and just to sort of throw these by you, you identify yourself as an individual who can't be categorized, with a dynamic and flexible identity that could evolve at any time that you choose. Remember, we spoke about that. You know what you've been through in life, and trust yourself to get by in any situation, no matter what. And here's another big one, really big. You value your own opinion of yourself more highly than the opinions of others, and you determine your own value by a criteria that is your own. Next.
Do you mind repeating the first one?
Sure. You identify yourself as an individual who can't be categorized, with a dynamic and flexible identity that you could evolve at any time that you choose. And look, these are just concepts I want to run by you. You know, I mean, just kind of let percolate in your head. You know, it's not so much a point of, you know, meditating on them or anything like that. It's just sort of concepts I want to run by you. But look, you know that your acceptance in any particular situation is never a threat to your overall well-being. And here's another, and this next one that for me, I've really tried to install in myself. I feel it's been really important, especially when you become addicted to external validation. Isn't that the problem with getting so much, when you get external validation so easily, that you become addicted to it. And that's, you know what your best qualities are, and that even if people don't see them or acknowledge them, you know very well that they exist. Like, you don't need other people to validate that your best qualities exist. Your state will not go down, right? Like, oh, these people didn't see my best qualities. As if you no longer have them. Give me a break, right? But yet we all do it. Just gotta move past it. You know that you offer real value to people, and if they don't see it, it's their issue, not yours. And lastly, you believe that your life, perspective, and energy have an inherent value whether other people acknowledge it or not. Now look, real core confidence, you know, it's something that you have to dig very deep inside yourself to find that, right? I mean, and it's a habit that comes from, on one level, understanding what it is, like having that shift in perspective where you actually, you know, like we've laid out what it is intellectually, but then to actually internalize it, a lot of the time you have to dig very deep within yourself, you know, over the years to really become rooted in that. Almost like, you know, like a tree. Like we plant the seed right now, right? And we've just kind of put the seed here today. You know, and anyone watching at home, watching this DVD set, you know, putting in the seed, you know, putting in the seed and just sort of letting the roots slowly start to come down, right? Letting the sort of, you know, the real core confidence kind of blossom, right? You know, just start to come out. And as it comes out more and more, you'll gather more and more reference experiences for why core confidence really works. And as you gather more reference experience, your mind begins to accept that this is the truth. And so really, you know, it can start to really blossom. And, you know, I guess one of the reasons why I love teaching this is that if you can plant the seed and just not be hard on yourself, like not be hard on yourself, like, oh, I told myself I'd have core confidence when I listened to the seminar or whatever, but just sort of, you know, just put the seed there, keep moving towards it, not beat yourself up over it. You know, inevitably you'll probably beat yourself up a little bit, but just moderate it, you know what I'm saying? The possibilities that this opens up for you in life, in terms of, you know, the places that you can go, you know, the fun that you can have in different environments, and the way that you feel about yourself is just awesome. All right? It is just awesome. And we talked a little bit about Tim as being an example, and how Tim, when he came back from Europe, really had a new level of core confidence that he had internalized. And we think, where did that come from? Well, look at what Tim went through when he was teaching boot camps in Europe. He's living in Europe. He's living in London with Ozzy. Him and Ozzy were living together. And Tim would do the special events, which means he would fly from city to city. So maybe one weekend he's in Denmark, another weekend he's in Amsterdam, another weekend he's in Copenhagen or something, right? Dublin, all these various different places. And he's going into a foreign environment where he doesn't know anybody. He doesn't even speak necessarily the first language of the country, even though English is pretty well spoken. He's going into a nightclub where he doesn't know anybody. And what does that do to you, right? Because when you have everything the way that you want it, like say that you go to the same nightclub, right? And you know people there. It's so easy to feel comfortable, isn't it? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. I mean, I love going to places where, you know, where I know people. I mean, it's incredibly fun. It's awesome. It's a different type of thing. But there's a sort of glory, right? Like a true glory in traveling and in exposing yourself to all these different environments and learning to almost, you know how we say planting, like, you know, let the roots take hold? Well, think of it like most people's roots would be growing into like their environment, their friends, their status. And this is where the psychological pathways are going, where that raw, like that really like strong, unshakable confidence is coming from. But to me, I almost think that, like, you know, if this is like the world that you live in, it's almost like the roots just kind of hover, right? And they just kind of stay. Like, if this is you, what most people have is like, say that this is, okay, I've never done this example, but here's the best way I could put it. Say that this is you, right? And everything beyond this is your environment. Well, I'm feeling a stroke of genius coming on. Look, what most people do is they go like that, right? That's what most people looks like. Environment, friends, status, like that. That's what most people have, right? So this here is kind of empty, you know, right? But what a guy with real core confidence has is almost like this. Right? And he doesn't need it to extend beyond those boundaries, if that makes any sense. All right? He doesn't need the roots that he has in terms of his confidence, right? His rootedness in his own being does not need to extend past here. And that's what happens to you. And that's what happened to Tim. And that's what's happened to a lot of guys that I've known who have traveled. I see a lot of guys. It's almost like the pickup artist pilgrimage. All right? Can I coin that?
Sure.
Can I have that one? Right? I love that. I'm a real believer in it. The pickup artist pilgrimage. My friend Magnus did it. A lot of guys that I know who've said, you know what? Like, it's this kind of weird pilgrimage that guys in the community will do, where they say, I'm just going to travel. I'm going to go and just go out to nightclubs and travel and meet girls and do this whole success with women thing in different environments. And you see them, they come back from it rooted, just rooted in themselves, because they've gone into these different environments and they have really been forced to root their confidence in themselves. That is core confidence, all right? That's what I'm getting at here. So can true core confidence ever exist? Like a true 10 out of 10 core confidence? Hard to say. Depends on your semantics, depends on your definition. But I really do think that as you age, core confidence is a goal, an ideal that you shoot towards and that you get closer and closer to hitting. Because in many ways, we could say that our ideals are just that, aren't they? Aren't they just that? Our ideals are ideals. It's just something to shoot at, right? Perfection is an ideal that we shoot at. And having a concept of what perfection looks like gives us something to point at and to take shots at. But an ideal is just an ideal. It's not meant to be taken necessarily that seriously, right? Good enough is good enough, isn't it? Good enough is good enough. So even if you don't have perfect core confidence, right? Good enough is good enough. And that's what I have to say about that. So look, we've kind of looked at identity here, right? This is going to make a great video shot, by the way. Okay. Okay, nice. Just teasing. So look, I guess what I've said here is we think about identity, right? And most people self-seek in things like, like I said, the clothes, the status, the environment, that kind of thing. But when you can begin to self-seek from a place within, all right, in some of the ways that I mentioned, like knowing that you can get by no matter what, to me, that is the ideal of core confidence. And that is what we're moving towards. Okay? When you have that sense of identity where you say, I know who I am. I know who I am. I am not, remember, guys, it's all about Tyler Durden. You are not your fucking khakis. You are not the contents of your wallet. You are not the car you drive. All right? You are the all-seeing, all-singing crap of the universe, all right? And there's a lot of depth there. That's why that movie and later the book exploded my mind when I first saw that at a young age. So basically, that's the goal I want to move you guys towards, is that sense of identity, of knowing who you are that comes from within yourself. You guys see that? How would you feel if when I let that go, it just started floating up? You guys want to see that? No, I can't do that. When you drop something, you have an anticipated response, right? Like, hold rock, drop the rock, it falls to the ground. It's nice, because you can predict it. Now look, what would happen if, say for example, you dropped it and it floated up? Why would that be bad? Why would it be bad if you dropped a rock and it floated up? I mean, what happens when you drop a feather? You let go of a feather and it's in the wind. It floats up. Is it disastrous? Seems okay, right? It's fine. But you see, if you were to drop a rock or a marker and started floating up, that would be messing with your concept of reality. All right? Because we all have a concept of reality. You'll notice that the title of this section is called Conflicting Realities. So, let's say that you're walking along and you bump into a patio door. Anyone ever done that?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone ever been walking down a set of stairs? You start walking down, and you hit, and the end of the stairs is too early, right? So you go, boom, boom, and you go, whoa, sorry. Or maybe there's a step missing. How about that one? Even more fun, right? Sure. So it's interesting when it breaks your reality. All right, when your reality is being messed with. So what is your reality? Your sense of reality. Well, basically, your sense of reality is what allows you to make predictions about the world. All right, you have a model of the world inside your head about all the different cause and effect relationships. It's your map of how the world works. It is the sum total of all the cause and effect relationships that you've learned over the course of your life that allow you to predict the world. Cause and effect relationships may be something that you've got firsthand, or it might be secondhand. You guys remember that? Firsthand, secondhand sense of reality. So it might be hypothetical or it might be firsthand, but it includes your view of how the world works, your view of what people are like and how they should respond to you, and your view of what you deserve out of life. All right? So when you think about that, like, you have a certain reality of how people should treat you. You have a certain reality of what the world is like. I want you guys to keep that in mind and think about what a successful guy, what his model of reality is like, versus what a guy who is not successful and what his model of reality is like. Everything from the abundance compared to the scarcity mindsets, whether or not people are trustworthy, whether or not people are friendly. You know, everyone in the world's your friend versus people are by nature mean-spirited and not trustworthy. And the different ends of the continuum, all right? Just consider that. Hold that in the back of your mind for a little bit. Now, there's an old expression that you guys might have heard, and I want you to keep it in mind. I don't totally believe in this expression, by the way, but it's an old expression. I like it, so I wanted to run it by you. It's called, whoever has the strongest reality wins. You guys ever heard that one? Yeah. Whoever has the strongest reality wins. And what that basically means is that whoever has the more dominant sense of reality will tend to impose that sense of reality onto the other people around them. That's what it means, whoever has the strongest reality wins. Essentially, whoever has the stronger beliefs about who they are and how people should treat them, all right? If you have the strongest belief about who you are, which includes, remember when we talked about identity? You have that belief about where you stand on the totem pole. Whoever has a stronger belief about where they stand on the totem pole and how people should treat them will suck people into that reality. And people will begin to interact with them through that context. Essentially, we're really getting to the root about what success with women is all about. Not at the novice level, not at the intermediate level, but at the really advanced level. I mean, the guys that are the real, really skilled guys. The guys that you read about. And, I guess what I could say is, have you guys all read, boot camp testimonials at different points? And have you noticed that oftentimes, not always, there's, different opinions, but oftentimes a running theme is people say how it was mind-blowing or earth-shattering, or it just completely, it mangled their reality. And the reason why is that there's certain things that a guy who's really, really good at this knows, all right? Like I said, kind of like that advanced pickup artistry, even though I actually don't like the term pickup artist, but like that advanced pickup artistry. And essentially one of the concepts that I spoke about yesterday was RAS. You guys remember that? Reticular activation system. Knowing, when you're in the girl's RAS, getting into her RAS, blocking the obstacles out of your RAS, or maybe pulling the RAS back and sort of making her just kind of chase to get back in it, that kind of thing. Well, today, we're sort of covering another advanced concept like that the really hardcore guys, they may not be able to articulate it, they might not be able to explain it the way might not be able to have the type of discussion that we're about to have, but they intuitively get it, all right? They're doing this. And essentially that's imposing the dominant reality into social situations. Some people do it. Some people almost have like a bubble around them, and everywhere that they walk, it's like reality is almost melting around them, and people are acting the way that they expect other people to act, and so on and so forth. Hopefully that's in a positive way. Now, all right, so look, when we think about the interaction, we think things like, who is more attractive? Who is trying to get the other person's approval? Whose way of acting makes more sense? So when the popular kid at school is smoking a joint, and he passes it to the not popular kid, and the not popular kid has watched all those don't do drugs commercials, and he says, here, smoke this. And the kid just goes, like that, right? What's going on there? That's peer pressure, right? That's where peer pressure takes effect, is that the dominant reality is winning out. Remember we talked a lot about that system, right? The system that people have, what we called pinging, which looks like this. You guys remember that? The pinging. Look at that little smiley face right there. How could you not want to be that guy? All right. It's like the Gollum. All right. Okay. So look. What's happening is the person who has the stronger reality, he tends to go, not always, right? And these are kind of like, we're making broad strokes here, but basically he tends to go more off the first-hand experience than second-hand experience, all right? The exception to that rule would be, well, maybe he goes off second-hand experience but just believes in it a lot or whatever. But if we want to make some generalizations here, typically, this guy here, if he's pinging a lot, you guys see that? The guy who is the opposite, if this is the guy who's pinging, and this is where he's getting his reality from, the guy who's the opposite would be more like, look at this guy. This guy's awesome. All right, look. He doesn't really ping. It's more like he just gets his own experience, and that's it. All right? He's not pinging the environment all the time in order to determine what people think. Now, we talked yesterday about how this whole socially pinging thing and how that's very much ingrained into social conditioning. So social conditioning, again, because people are always pinging to form that social concept of reality, different people have different extents to which they're affected by the whole social pinging thing. So we talked about how most people walk through life in a walking daze. They're kind of just going through life, following trends. You know how most people want to be trendy, right? Just kind of following trends, looking at what other people are doing, looking to other people to tell them how to act, how to joke around, how to be. That's the majority of people. So when you understand that by having the stronger reality, you can pull people into your reality, once that sort of